Greetings. This is the Reverend Dr. Paul Hasselbeck, and I am delighted to be with you today. And thank you for inviting me. On this slide, you can see my website, paulhasselbeck.com, the website for my podcast, metaphysicalromp2.com, and also my email address, alberthasselbeck@gmail.com. And feel free to email me about metaphysics questions and also to ask me for the whole slide set. I'm happy to share them with you. You might consider having your cell phone at hand to take any pictures of slides you find interesting. Please join me in prayer. You can leave your eyes open, you can close them. Just simply make yourself comfortable and open your mind heart even more than it was a moment ago. I always begin with a deep breath. Let us settle into our awareness that we are fully human and fully divine. And in this now moment, we let go of outer appearances as we remember our inherent divinity right here and right now. And from an open mind and open heart, we listen, we learn, we grow, and we transform ourselves after that perfect pattern of divinity within us. One power, one presence, that is the truth of us, of you and me. And we call it forth right now. We claim it, we put a demand on it so that we create the most wonderful experience we possibly can. And for all of this, we are grateful. And so it is. You know, we hear a lot of phrases that a lot of us say over and over again. And I heard "what now" a lot in the last year. And some of it coming out of my own lips. You know, when something surprising would happen, I'd say, "What now? What now?" Have you done that? And then how about these? "It's always something." And Gilda said, "There's always something. If it's not one thing, it's another." Because actually, that's true. If you're not experiencing one thing, you're experiencing another thing. And if you're not doing either of those, you're probably not living. But she was brilliant. And then she would say, never mind, when she was wrong. And then there's this one. "It is what it is." Boy, I've used that one. And we hear that a lot in our culture now, don't we? And we shouldn't stop there. Because "it is what it is often said in like a state of resignation. As it is what it is, what can I possibly do about it? Well, you know, Unity and New Thought has an answer to that question. It is what you call it. It's what you name it. If you start thinking about something in a negative light, you are creating that state of consciousness. And if you're thinking of that thing in a positive light, you create that state of consciousness. If it's negative, you'll tend to use the event for the negative. If you're having a positive view of it, you'll tend to find a way to use that, whatever it is, for the good. And so one of the ways we do that is through affirmation, or a word I prefer, assertion. Assertion, because affirmation should be done with a lot of power and with a lot of feeling. And I think of those terms in relation to these quotes. "Thou shalt decree a thing and it shall be established. What you decide on will be done." How about "you will decide on a matter and it will be established"? Well, the thing is, if we're looking for all of those things that happen out there, we are looking in the wrong place. Because the truth is, these are all about in your consciousness, in my consciousness, because everything begins with mind. And we can have lots of thoughts and lots of feelings in mind, but nothing happens until we take action. And when we hold a thought in mind, when we affirm it, when we assert it, we are decreeing a thing in our consciousness and we're building up mind substance around it. until we ultimately take action. And I love this quote from Charles Fillmore. Our dominion, read it with me. Our dominion is over our own thoughts, emotions, and passions. Have you ever thought about that? That your dominion is over your own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And we actually have limited dominion on things out here and very limited dominion over other people. We can force our will on people, but there's an old saying, a mind changed against its will is of the same opinion still. And this is important to know, that no one, no thing can affect your consciousness and let you decide that way. No one or no thing has any power over your thoughts, emotions, or passions. And what if you made that personal? I'm going to do that right now to give you a demonstration. No one or no thing has any power over my thoughts, emotions, or passions. Yes, and that is the truth. Charles also said this, because we often see that stuff out there as stumbling blocks to what we can think, say, do, and act. He said, stumbling blocks at first may seem to be in the physical environment, but closer discernment reveals that they are primarily in the mind. Yeah, if you see something out there and it's a roadblock and you believe it's a roadblock, you're not going to be able to get around it. However, the biggest roadblock to you accomplishing something is your thinking that thing out there is a roadblock. And so I say it this way. Stumbling blocks that appear to be in the outer are primarily in my mind as thoughts and feelings, primarily in your mind as thoughts and feelings. So next time you feel something out there or even think something out there is keeping you from doing something, start with changing your thoughts about it first, changing your thoughts and your feelings. And when I do this, I'm not pointing to my brain. I'm pointing to my consciousness, my mind. And so that what now? Are you empathetic or apathetic? Apathetic or empathetic? So we can approach things see them as being apocalyptic or optimistic. So are you an apocalyptimist or a apocalypse, something like that? So think of this dandelion. It started as a seed and it was underneath that asphalt. And when that seed germinated, it had to have the faith and determination to push its way up through that asphalt, that apocalyptic event in its life, in order to turn into this beautiful dandelion. Oh, I know some of you don't like dandelions, but the flowers are beautiful and the seed pods are amazing. And so I would call this plant an apocalyptimist. Yes, apocalyptimist. That word is found in the Urban Dictionary, and it essentially means that an apocalyptimist is a person who knows the world's going to hell in a handbasket and know the outcome is going to be good anyway. And aren't we Unity students like that in a way? And when we do that, when we have this apocalyptimistic outer view or viewpoint, we will tend to use whatever's happening for our good, for the good of others, and to create blessings around us. So when one of these what now events happen, we're asking, well, what is it? And we might ask why it's happening. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to the world? Those are good questions, but none of them are as good as the question how. Not how it happened, but now that we have this thing in our lives, how can I use this to express more good? How can I use even this to bless others? And you see, when we shift from why to how, we shift from victim consciousness to maybe vessel and hopefully the highest verity or truth consciousness or Christ consciousness. Because that how question is what we can use to call ourselves up higher. And one of the things we want to do to call ourselves up higher is to remember this quote from A Course in Miracles. It's one of my favorites. Make this year different by making it all the same. Make this year different by making it all the same. And you might be scratching your head and wondering, wow, what does Paul mean by that? Well, the thing is that when we go through our lives, there's all these different events happening, and we're interacting with all these different people. And we think we have to respond or react to each person in a different way. We think we also have to come from a different point of view for each one. But this is about making this year different by deciding to not change ourselves into relation to all the things that's happening out there. And so then we get make this year different by treating it all the same. Treating it all the same. Course in Miracles says everything's either a call for love or an expression of love. And if that's the case, if it's a call of love, we respond in love. We treat it with love. And if it is an expression of love, we treat it with love. So that's a really good example of making all this different stuff the same. And we can do this with faith, not blind faith. Blind faith is that faith that where we believe some outer power greater than ourselves is going to rescue us. We're talking in unity about understanding faith, where we know principles and laws, truths we can use, divine ideas, and we learn that we can depend on them when we call on them. So let's go here now. In relation to everything I've been talking about, it's important for us to remember that we are human. And when we think of our humanity, we're thinking of our personalities and our bodies. And we're pretty much taught from a very young age that all this stuff outside of our humanity, love, benevolence, generosity, and so much more come from a God in heaven, if we're good enough. If we're good enough. So we think we're separate from all that stuff, but that we can use it if we have God's permission. And then in unity, we sometimes hear that we have a spark of the divine within us. And so this diagram I'm trying to demonstrate where I have a little bit of the principle or divine idea of love and a little bit of the divine idea of benevolence and a little bit of generosity, a drop of it, a wave of it, a piece or a part of it within us. However, there's only one power and one presence. And that one power and one presence is everywhere totally present. Everywhere the totality of God is. Everywhere the totality of God exists. And that includes, friend, at the point of you. In fact, it is the what of you, the truth of you. And so what I like to do is diagram it this way, that yes, you and I are humans. We have personalities and we have bodies. However, we are also divine. There's no spot where God is not. There's no spot where the divine is not. There's no absence in presence. And that presence is totally present at the point of you and the point of me. So like Jesus is spoken of, we're fully divine and fully human. Fully divine and fully human. Your divinity is the what of you. Your humanity, my humanity, is our who. We're a what and a who. And in fact, there's not time to get into this. We're manifesting our who out of our what. We're using divine ideas according to divine law to manifest our personalities and our bodies. And this gives us a really good starting point to make this year different by making it all the same. Because those principles, those divine ideas that our divinity is made up of, there's 3 of them that are really important: love, benevolence, and generosity. And we use those to generate kindness. And kindness, like confetti, goes a long way. In that moment, when you're not really feeling it to be kind from that surface level of your personality, you can reach deep inside and remember, I am divine. You can remember, I am divine. Love and benevolence and generosity are here for me to use. And I'm going to use them now to be kind. I'm going to respond from my what instead of from my who. We can also offer grace. You know, traditionally we think of grace as God offering us goodness or a blessing, even though we don't deserve it. And as human beings, often we think everybody's negative action should be punished somehow. And really, in those moments, that's when we need to be amazing grace. We have to learn to offer each other grace. And grace is something we offer from the awareness of what we are, from our divinity, using love, benevolence, and generosity at the very least. Grace isn't from God. We offer it to each other. And you know, friends, in that moment, you want to beat yourself up for doing something wrong. Well, maybe that's the very moment you might want to pause. Remember your divinity. Remember what you are and offer yourself a big old helping of grace. And I assure you, life will go better. And then one other way we can use our divinity is in forgiveness. So I love this quote from Jerry Jampolsky. He recently passed. He was such a great man. He created attitudinal healing from his experience of A Course in Miracles. And his definition of forgiveness is, forgiveness happens when I'm willing to let go of any hope of a better past. And I always get a smile when I say that. I chuckle, because when we are unforgiving about something someone did, it's something they did in the past, not in the present, as if our being unforgiving will somehow change that past event. And you're holding it against yourself, really, friends. And this is why we got to remember that grace also and be kind to ourselves. And these are two definitions I created. Read along with me. Forgiveness happens when I'm willing to let go of everything I have added to another person's divinity. Forgiveness happens when I'm willing to let go of everything I have added to another person's divinity. And isn't that how it works? You know, think about it. If we fundamentally know we're each divine, I'm not going to be unforgiving about I'm not going to be unforgiving about your divinity. I'm going to be unforgiving about something I've made up about you. And you know, the same thing is true with ourselves. Self-forgiveness happens when I'm willing to let go of everything I've added to my divinity. In a sense, our personality is something we've added to our divinity. And I am unforgiving of myself when I'm focused on those adverse aspects of my personality, of my humanity. And I got to really learn to let that go. I got to offer myself some kindness and some grace, because those are mere perceptions of myself. Those are changeable, where my divinity is permanent, inherent, innate, and unchangeable. So we got to offer ourselves forgiveness as well. And so what now? Well, the answer is really pretty simple. The answer is, now what? When you're in what now and starting to go down that path maybe of negativity, now what? You and I, we have to remember our what we are, not who we are. We have to remember our divinity. And that's a way we put God first, not that external God. We put our divinity first. That's what. I put my divinity first. And so when something happens that's an emergency, yeah, we might have to make a 911 call, but that's definitely long distance compared to this call, a 111 call. When you're in what now, remember the 111 call. Remember now my what? Because I want to be living, because you want to be living, I think, from your divinity. Because it's from there that we make this year different by making it all the same. Because whatever's happening, we decide we're meeting that from our innate divinity and not from the surface of our personalities, of our humanity. And so, what now? Now what? Remember your what. Remember that 111 call, that more than local call, calling on your divinity. And so it is. And so, friends, I invite you now into a time of meditation. I invite you to take a deep breath. Let's take another one. Just allowing yourself to be supported just where you are, just as your divinity, your inherent divine nature is supporting you 24/7, 7 days a week. So let us just settle in. And as we close our eyes, we let go of the awareness of the outer realm and pivot our awareness inward to that still pull, that place within us of infinite potential, our divine nature. And we do this to restore a more firm awareness of our divinity. The first principle is there's only one power and one presence. And that means any power you have is that power. Any presence you are is that power. And that's because there can never be any absence of presence. And God, the one power and one presence, is totally present at the point of view. Your divinity isn't something you inherited. It's something that is innate. Your divinity is inherent in you. Always available, always present. Let me take another deep breath. And join me in knowing I am divine. That may feel like a pretty bold statement to you. However, as with all affirmations, it's about claiming a truth. Even though right now at this moment, you and I may not be fully experiencing it. Even so, we claim it because it is true. As we breathe in and we breathe out, let's claim it again. I am divine. And feel your divinity right now. As we go even deeper, as we rest in the silence. Feel your wholeness now. Feel your divinity. And yes, feel your humanity too. You are, I am, fully divine and fully human. And our divinity is made up of these magnificent principles, these divine ideas, if you will. And one of them is love. So let's claim that now. Repeat after me. I am love. Yes. And now, I am benevolence. I am generosity. And friends, we use our love, we use benevolence, we use generosity to be kind, to offer grace, and to be forgiving. Yes, I am love, benevolence, and generosity. Repeat after me. I am love, benevolence, and generosity. And so you are, and so I am, and so it is. Amen. As we return to this time, remember, you are love, benevolence, and generosity. As we bring our time together to conclusion, I'd like you to consider giving and supporting Unity of Hilton Head. You know, we give because we have received. We speak of it as giving and receiving, but that's a little backwards. And you know what else? We give because we can. We give because within each of us is a principle of generosity. And that principle is inherent. We didn't inherit it. It's always been there, and it's innate. So too is the principle of benevolence. So when you're giving, be in that mental framework of benevolence and generosity, and be giving from your heart because you have already received. I also want to invite you to click on the thumbs up if you enjoyed what you've seen today. And with that, let us close with prayer. I invite you to sit back just like I am, take a deep breath, and let's take two more. As we invest this time, remember that each of us is innately divine and innately human. As we remember our divinity and remember our humanity, we remember those in a way in which they are somehow one. And we use our humanity to show up in the world in the best way we can when we remember our divinity. And feel the presence of that divinity within you. It is your authentic self. It is the I am. It is your spiritual self. It is actually what you are, and your personality is who you are. And so one of the ways in which we remember our divinity is to be grateful. I am grateful for my divinity, for your divinity, for our divinity, because it's identical in each one of us. And as we go forth today, Let us remember our divinity. Let us put our divinity first. Let us put that divinity first and make this year different by making it all the same. And as we take another deep breath, I invite you from your heart to send out love and compassion and gratitude and joy to the entire universe. As you feel that gratitude, it is so, and amen. Thank you for joining us today.